You want to know what betrayal feels like? It's coming home to your family's lake cabin and finding nothing but rubble, a neon pink demolition notice, and your grandfather's Purple Heart medal buried in the mud, all because some HOA president decided I hadn't paid my fees I never even owed. They thought I was just another resident they could steamroll. What they didn't know is that my entire family works for the Department of Justice. Chatai. Act 1. The beginning of the conflict. My name's Adrian Barnes. I'm 36, a federal prosecutor, a man who thought he had seen every kind of corruption in a courtroom, but nothing prepared me for what happened in my own neighborhood. That cabin by Pine Lake wasn't just property, it was legacy. My grandfather built it with his Korean War pension. Every summer of my childhood was spent there fixing wood in his workshop, learning about integrity, about service, about patience. Then came Scarlett Torres, HOA president, late 40s, platinum hair, sharp suits, expensive jewelry that screamed community volunteer but lived like royalty. She strutted around like Pine Lake was her personal kingdom. It started with letters, thick envelopes stamped with HOA authority, unpaid dues, 18 months overdue. They claimed I owed $9,000 plus penalties, which was impossible. I had receipts, cancelled checks, everything. I tried reasoning. At the next HOA meeting, I stood with my folder of proof. Scarlett didn't even let me sit before announcing, Mr. Barnes believes he's above the rules. We don't tolerate freeloaders in this community. I tried to speak, but she cut me off. Lawyers always think they can twist the truth. Here, the board decides the truth. People in the room shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. She warned me about escalation. I thought escalation meant fines or liens. I never imagined bulldozers. Mal. Act 2. Escalation and the breaking point. A week later, I drove up to the cabin and froze. The windows were taped shut. A bright notice slapped across the door. Property seized by HOA, dangerous and abandoned. I called Scarlett. She actually laughed. Tomorrow, it won't be your problem anymore. And the next morning, I heard the rumble before I saw it. A bulldozer, crawling up the gravel driveway like some mechanical monster. Workers in hard hats didn't even hesitate. They tore into the porch, splintering beams, ripping walls apart like paper. I stood there, paralyzed, watching my family's memorial, our history turn into debris. Neighbors filmed it on their phones. Some whispered, others smirked. My throat burned. My chest felt hollow, but I couldn't stop them. When the dust settled, all that was left was a slab of concrete and broken memories. I walked through the wreckage. There was the doorknob from my grandfather's workshop, the torn American flag he flew every morning, and then I spotted it, half buried in the mud, glinting faintly his Purple Heart medal, the one he earned carrying wounded soldiers off Heartbreak Ridge. My hands shook as I picked it up. I was 8 again, sitting on his lap, listening to his quiet stories about war. He built that cabin with blood money, real blood, and this woman had thrown it away like trash. That's when the despair hit. I sat on a pile of splintered wood until the sun went down. My head spun with doubts. Maybe I messed up. Maybe I really missed something. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't as careful as I thought. Ma. For the first time in years, I considered walking away, selling the land, moving on, pretending none of it mattered. I almost convinced myself to give up, and then my phone rang. It was my sister, Emma. She works for the IRS, Financial Crimes Division. She saw the wreckage behind me on video and went pale. Adrian, that's not an HOA violation. That's insurance fraud, property destruction, and civil rights abuse. That's federal. Within hours, my phone was blowing up. My mum, the Deputy Attorney General, was furious. My brother, FBI, said, "This isn't just HOA bullying. This is organized crime." Even my father, a retired judge, joined the call. Suddenly, it wasn't just me against Scarlett. It was the Barnes family federal service in our blood staring down an HOA president who thought she was untouchable. And that's when the shift happened. My despair hardened into resolve. Scarlett hadn't just destroyed a cabin, she'd declared war on the wrong family. Wow. Act 3. The showdown. The Pine Lake community meeting was packed that night. Dozens of neighbors crowded the small hall. Scarlett walked in wearing black, like she was attending her own coronation, and started her speech. "Friends," she said, her voice dripping with fake sorrow. The Harris property was unsafe. I did what was necessary to protect our community. Some people don't pay their dues, and rules are rules. That was my cue. I stood, holding my grandfather's purple heart high in the air. This is what was buried in the rubble of that unsafe property. A War Heroes Medal. That cabin wasn't abandoned, it was a memorial. And Scarlett Torres demolished it for profit. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Scarlett's eyes went wide, just for a second, then narrowed. Emotional theatrics don't change the facts, she snapped. That's when Emma wheeled in a projector. Bank statements, shell companies, forged inspection reports splashed across the screen. Over 340,000 stolen from this community, Emma explained. Funneled through fake LLCs tied directly to your HOA president. Neighbors erupted. Shouts, curses, fists slammed on tables. An elderly veteran stood, voice shaking with rage. My wife died of cancer. Mom, I sold every medal I had to pay her bills. I didn't steal from my neighbors. Scarlett tried one last play. Tears in her eyes. I did it for my mother. She's dying of cancer. You can't understand what that feels like. But Mrs. Carter, whose husband had also died of cancer, stood tall. I fundraised. I begged family. What I didn't do was destroy a war memorial and rob military families. Scarlett's mask slipped. Her voice cracked into a scream. I had no choice. And that's when the doors opened. Federal agents stepped inside. The lead agent announced, Scarlett Torres, you're under arrest for racketeering, fraud, and violation of civil rights under color of law. The room went dead silent. Then neighbors actually cheered as agents cuffed her. Judge Crawford, her corrupt partner in court, was arrested too, caught red-handed approving fraudulent demolition orders. His face was ghost white as they dragged him out. Scarlett fought, sobbing, yelling, You don't understand. My mother's dying. My mother's dying. But the evidence was damning. Less than 30% of the money ever went to medical bills. The rest luxury cars, real estate, offshore accounts. I just stood there, medal in my hand, watching the woman who destroyed my grandfather's memorial finally lose everything. The cabin was gone, but justice had arrived.